If you've never tuned in to our podcast, we discuss topics about popular literature, local news, and we hit you with some knowledge bombs. Before we get into the main portion of our podcast today, we have some news.
In recent news, ISIS has adopted teddy bears for guns, and Owen has rabies.
Why'd you have to tell him that?
Sorry, man.
But
Thanks, Danny. In other events, the News, Novels, and Knowledge podcast is being slapped with a lawsuit by Kelly Blaine for malicious content. As a result, we will be fined for bankruptcy, and this podcast will be our first and last one.
Thanks, Mrs. Blaine.
Thanks. Today's topic is about how our modern perspectives affect our views in The Merchant of Venice, written by William Shakespeare, regarding Shylock, the main antagonist of the story. The main question of today's discussion is Shylock a victim or a villain?
Throughout the story, The Merchant of Venice, Shylock is put into a situation of balancing the line between a villain and victim, with the cases such as him being abused by Antonio, and him threatening Antonio with death for redemption.
But naturally, our modern perspective can be interpreted to have altered the original meaning of the play. Christian, can we see if we have any callers?
If any of you listeners out there want to tune in and voice your opinions, call us at 860-537-2378. Again, that number is 860-537-2378. Please, give us a call. Please. We have our first caller. So, sir, what is your opinion on this matter?
Well, clearly Shylock is a villain, and there are numerous examples that proves it to be true. Look at the examples within the novel. For starters, he calls his own daughter a pig, his sweet, innocent girl, his own flesh and blood, humiliated by the fact that he views her as a sloppy animal and is mocked in front of others. He deserves to be robbed of his jewels, and quite frankly, I can't blame her for running away.
However, Shylock was also disregarded as a human during his early life and was raised through beatings and negative remarks. So, can you blame him for being a bitter person in his later life?
Well, that's the thing. A responsible and good parent should have learned through his harsh childhood that maliciously beating a child doesn't teach the rights from the wrongs. It just creates another generation of abusive parents. Thus, I can and I do blame him for being a bitter person. The idea correlates with the modern perspective of what a proper parent nowadays should be. Learn from past mistakes and prevent your child from following the same perfect path. Do not replicate the harsh treatment that your parents unleashed on you, and be a better parent overall. However, at the same time, some parents don't obtain the attribute of learning from past mistakes, such as Shylock when he makes the remarks to his daughter. This can lead to the reader to believe that the daughter is a victim, and rightfully so, along with Shylock for enduring his share of verbal and physical abuse during his childhood.
Danny, Jordan, thank you for those amazing insights into the world of The Merchant of Venice. You both had amazing points, and I love the open communication. I'm sorry, Jordan, but we have to go to commercial break. We gotta make some money somehow.
And now for a word from our sponsors. MySpace. Hey, we can use them and not get copyrighted, right?
Yeah, no one uses MySpace anymore.
Yeah, right. MySpace is the pinnacle of social media platforms today. You can message people and have a limited profile picture. Invest now and ensure your information stays private. Now, back to our program.
Say hi to our next caller, Ryan.
I believe that Shylock can also be seen as a victim throughout the novel, because he was abused in his past by Antonio. Antonio bullied Shylock because he was a Jew. Shylock was called names like a dirty dog, and Antonio spat on his clothes. Antonio kicked Shylock because he would use his own money to make profit. Shylock let Antonio abuse him, and he never did anything about it. This relates to the time period of when the characters existed due to the fact that religion was a big factor in social stratification, or simply that the Christians had a higher ranking than the people of Jewish faith in society. But because our modern perspectives now are different than in the past, we view every religious faith as equal, and nobody is turned away due to their religious faith.
Well, while it is true that Shylock was unfairly treated throughout the entirety of the story, and before we even were introduced to him as a character, None of the punishments that have been inflicted upon him are worthy enough to wish or even contemplate the death of another. It is true it is unfair to him, but nearly nothing in life is equal to death. He is a victim, but he definitely has villainous tendencies.
I understand what you are saying, but Shylock was treated poorly his whole life by Antonio. Antonio singled him out because of his religion, treated him as if he was not human, and undermined his integrity of business and his life.
Fair point. I see where you're coming from. Sometimes a human can only take so much.
You know, Owen, from listening to all of you talk, it seems that both sides discussed and all perspectives explained are both correct. Shylock is a villain not only because of the time period depicting him as a villainous Jew, but also because of his villainous actions of threatening the life of Antonio. Yet at the same time, he is a victim. He has had all his wealth stripped from him, his happiness destroyed, and his life in complete ruin. He was, in order of the book, a villain, then a victim, then a villain, then a victim, then a villain, and then a victim again. Shylock is like a Batman villain. There are mental patients that have had horrible things happen to them. Murder, disfigurement, blackmail, and they go out to seek revenge for closure, making them a villain. In the end, they are beat into a full body cast and put into a mental hospital, only for the process to repeat again. You're both right. He's a victim and a villain.
Huh.
You know,
Yeah.
sounds pretty good.
That
right?
makes sense. It definitely makes sense.
You know, well, that's all the time we have. Thank you for supporting the short-lived lives of the News, Novels, and Knowledge podcast. Thank you, and get out of here!
Naturally, our modern perspective can be interpreted to have. Okay. Oh wait, no. Hold on.
Done. Oh wait, no, not done. Keep going. Christian speak. Oh my god. I can edit this out, but.
All right, here we go.